After years of testing, carrying, and putting thousands of rounds downrange, I have found 10 pistols I would never trust with my life. No hate, just hard truth. Some of these answers will shock you. Let's count them down. Number 10, Taurus PT111 G2. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the Taurus PT111 G2. Now, before the Taurus army comes for me in the comments, let me be very clear, I am not saying this gun cannot shoot. On a good day, at the range, with fresh ammo and a clean chamber, the PT111 G2 can actually perform decently. It is affordable, it is compact, and it looks the part. But here is my problem with it. When you are talking about a carry gun, a gun you are trusting with your actual life decent is not good enough. The PT111 G2 has one of the longest and most documented histories of trigger reset issues, light primer strikes, and random failures to feed in the entire budget pistol category. Taurus has had multiple recall situations over the years, and their quality control has historically been inconsistent at best. You might get a great one out of the box, you might get a nightmare. And when your life is on the line, a coin flip is not a gamble I am willing to take. Carry something you can bet everything on. The PT111 G2 is not that gun in 2026. Number 9, Remington RP9. Brand that dropped the ball completely. At number 9, we have the Remington RP9, and this one genuinely hurts to put on this list. Remington is one of the oldest and most respected names in American firearms history. They have been making guns since 1816, so when they announced a striker-fired polymer pistol to compete in the modern handgun market, expectations were high, very high, and the RP9 failed to meet almost every single one of them. The trigger on this pistol is one of the worst factory triggers ever installed. It is mushy, it is inconsistent, and the reset is so vague that you genuinely cannot tell when the gun is ready to fire again under stress. Beyond the trigger, the RP9 developed a reputation very quickly for feeding issues, extraction problems, and a grip texture that feels completely unfinished. The slide release is stiff, the disassembly process is unnecessarily complicated, and the overall fit and finish looks like a prototype that somehow made it to retail shelves. Remington tried to enter a market dominated by Glock, SIG, and Smith & Wesson, and they came completely unprepared. The RP9 is proof that legacy alone means nothing if the product does not deliver. Number 8, Kimber Solo Carry. Number 8 is the Kimber Solo Carry, and this one is going to upset a lot of people because Kimber makes genuinely beautiful firearms. The Solo Carry looks stunning. The fit and finish is premium, the size is perfect for concealed carry, and holding it in your hand feels like holding a piece of jewelry. But here is the brutal truth, this gun is one of the most ammunition-sensitive pistols ever made for concealed carry purposes. Kimber themselves specify that the solo carry must only be fed 124 grain or 147 grain NATO spec ammunition to function reliably. You cannot just load whatever hollow points you prefer and trust this gun with your life. That level of ammunition restriction is completely unacceptable in a defensive carry pistol. What happens in a real emergency when all you have access to is 115 grain loads? Your beautiful Kimber might just decide not to work that day. Early production models had serious reliability complaints, including failures to feed, failures to eject, and a trigger that required an unusually heavy pull weight. A carry gun needs to eat everything and ask for nothing. The solo carry demands too much and gives too little in return. Number 7, Kel-Tec PF9. At number 7, we have the Kel-Tec PF9, and I want to be fair here because Kel-Tec deserves credit for one thing: they made one of the thinnest 9mm pistols ever produced. At less than an inch wide, the PF9 practically disappears when you carry it, and for people who prioritize deep concealment above everything else, that thinness is genuinely attractive. But thinness comes at a serious cost with this pistol. The PF9 is known for having one of the most punishing shooting experiences of any 9mm on the market. The recoil is sharp, snappy, and genuinely uncomfortable because there is simply not enough mass in the frame to absorb anything. Follow-up shots are slow and inaccurate because getting the gun back on target after each round is a real challenge. Beyond comfort, the PF9 has documented issues with frame cracking over time, trigger bar problems, and inconsistent quality control that makes every individual gun a bit of a mystery. Some people swear by theirs, others have had nothing but problems. And again, for a carry gun, that inconsistency is the deal breaker. If I cannot trust the gun completely every single time, it stays out of my holster permanently. Number 6. Beretta Nano. Number 6 is the Beretta Nano, and this one sits on the list for a combination of reasons that together make it a carry gun I simply cannot recommend in 2026. The Nano was Beretta's attempt to enter the subcompact concealed carry market, and on paper it had interesting ideas. The modular serialized chassis, the snag-free design, the slim profile, these were all genuinely smart concepts, but execution is everything, and the Nano's execution left a lot to be desired. The trigger on the Nano is long, heavy, and provides almost no tactile feedback throughout the entire pull. Under range conditions, this is annoying. Under stress conditions, this is dangerous. A trigger you cannot read consistently is a trigger that will work against you when seconds matter. The Nano developed a reputation for feeding issues, particularly with hollow point ammunition, which is exactly the ammunition you would be carrying for self-defense. The sights are minimal to the point of being nearly useless in low light conditions, and the grip is so short that shooter control during rapid fire becomes genuinely difficult. Beretta makes outstanding pistols. The Nano is simply not one of them. Number 5. Rock Island Armory M1911A1FS. At number 5, we have the Rock Island Armory M1911A1FS. And let me say this carefully because 1911 fans are passionate people. The 1911 platform itself is a masterpiece. Designed by John Browning over a century ago, it remains one of the most ergonomic and naturally pointable pistol designs ever created. A quality 1911 from Colt, Wilson, Combat, or Nighthawk is an absolute pleasure to shoot. The Rock Island version, however, is a very different conversation. RIA imports these pistols from the Philippines at a price point that seems almost too good to be true, and unfortunately, in many ways it is. The quality control on RIA 1911s is notoriously inconsistent. Some buyers get perfectly functional pistols that run for thousands of rounds without issues. Others get pistols with frame cracks, extractor problems, feeding failures, and timing issues right out of the box. The internal fitting and finishing that makes a premium 1911 run like a sewing machine is simply not present. For range use and occasional shooting, an RIA might be fine, but as a carry gun that I am staking my life on every single day, I need certainty. Number 4. Diamondback DB9. Number 4 is the Diamondback DB9, and this pistol makes the list for being almost impressively unreliable for something that costs real money. The DB9 holds the distinction of being one of the smallest and lightest 9mm pistols ever manufactured. It is genuinely tiny. We are talking about a gun that disappears into a pocket completely, and that size is seductive for people who want maximum concealment with minimum printing. But the DB9 has earned a reputation in the firearms community that is hard to ignore. Reliability complaints are widespread and well documented across every major firearms forum and review platform. Failures to feed, failures to eject, light primer strikes, and a trigger that feels like it was designed without any consideration for the actual shooter. These are consistent complaints that appear again and again from real owners. The reset on the trigger is nearly non-existent, making controlled follow-up shots extremely difficult. The small grip leaves most shooters with poor purchase and poor control during recoil. And the sights, if you can even call them that, are essentially decorative at anything beyond very close range. When lives are on the line, size cannot be the only priority. Reliability must come first, and the DB9 fails that test badly. Number 3, Smith & Wesson Sigma. The bronze spot on our never carry list goes to the Smith & Wesson Sigma, and this one has a genuinely fascinating history behind its problems. When Smith & Wesson released the Sigma in the early 1990s, Glock actually filed a lawsuit against them, claiming the design copied the Glock too closely. Glock eventually won a settlement. But here is the ironic and painful part. Despite copying Glock's general concept, Smith & Wesson somehow produced a pistol that performs dramatically worse than the gun they were allegedly imitating. The Sigma's trigger is universally considered one of the worst in the industry, heavy, gritty, long, and with a reset so far forward that shooting it quickly and accurately requires serious concentration and practice. The trigger pull weight on many Sigma models exceeds 9 pounds, which is almost double what most modern carry pistols require. Beyond the trigger, the Sigma has a dated feel that makes it seem like a relic compared to modern options available today. Smith & Wesson eventually evolved the Sigma into the M and P series, which is an outstanding pistol, but the Sigma itself never received the updates it desperately needed. Number 2, Hi-Point C9. At number 2, we have the Hi-Point C9, and I already know the comments section is going to be absolutely on fire for this one. Hi-Point has built an almost cult-like following online based on one undeniable fact: their pistols are incredibly cheap and they do technically fire bullets. The C9 sells for under $200 new, comes with a lifetime warranty, and Hi-Point will fix or replace it no matter what happens. That warranty is genuinely impressive and I respect it completely. But here is every other thing about the C9. It is one of the heaviest and bulkiest 9mm pistols ever made because it uses a simple blowback operating system that requires a massive slide to function. It is nearly impossible to carry concealed because of its size and weight. The trigger is heavy and inconsistent. The magazine only holds 8 rounds. The sights are basic. The finish is rough. The overall fit and quality feels like it was assembled as quickly as possible with the cheapest available materials. And the reliability, while sometimes acceptable at the range, is nowhere near the standard required for a defensive carry pistol. The Hi-Point C9 is a curiosity, a conversation piece, and a budget range toy. It is not a gun I would ever stake my life on, not in 2026 or any other year. Number 1, Cobra Enterprises FS380, and here we are at number 1, the gun I would least trust with my life out of every pistol on this entire list, the Cobra Enterprises FS380. Some of you may not have even heard of this pistol, and honestly, that is probably a good thing. Cobra Enterprises produces what the firearms community refers to as Saturday Night Specials ultra cheap zinc alloy framed pistols that are manufactured to an absolute minimum standard. The FS380 is chambered in 380 ACP, which is already on the lower end of acceptable defensive calibers. And it manages to somehow make 380 ACP feel even less confidence-inspiring through its catastrophically poor execution. The zinc alloy frame is not steel. It is not aluminum. It is a pot metal construction that has been documented cracking, warping, and, in extreme cases, failing structurally after relatively low round counts. The tolerances on these pistols are so loose that reliability is genuinely random. You simply do not know what this gun is going to do. And there you have it, 10 pistols that I personally would never trust with my life in 2026. Now look, I know some of you watching right now own one of these guns. Maybe you love it. Maybe you have put thousands of rounds through it without a single problem, and genuinely, I am happy for you. But my job on this channel is not to tell you what you want to hear. My job is to tell you the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. And the truth is, when your life is on the line, average is not acceptable. Inconsistent is not acceptable. A gun that works most of the time is not acceptable. Most of the time means nothing when the one time it fails is the one time you needed it most.